my name is John McGee. I'm a partner at Webconsuls. We're a digital marketing agency here in Nashville and also have an office in Los Angeles. Today, this video is going to cover Google Ads tips for beginners. And just to clarify, when I say beginners, I don't mean someone who's completely new to Google Ads. This is really geared more towards individuals who have a pretty good grasp of how Google Ads works, but are just looking to improve performance. And these items are things we see on a regular basis. Google Ads kind of has an aspect of it where when you initially log in, it appears very simple and a lot of the features are hidden to a degree. So these are just some quick, simple things you can do that make an enormous difference in performance. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Okay, so the first item I want to touch on is just the actual structuring of the account. And it's best practice to mirror your website with your Google Ads account. So what that means is both Google Ads and website navigations have a general hierarchy. Within Google Ads, it's account is the top level, campaign under that, ad group under that, and then keywords last at the fourth level. That usually matches a lot of websites. It's got general navigational hierarchy. They just kind of in a nutshell starts with company service or just kind of the broad service, then the specific service at the third level, and then words to describe that service under it. So this is just kind of an example of how you would structure really both a website and a Google Ads account. So we're using a fictitious company, Joe's Plumbing. That's going to be the account or the top level. Under that, Joe's Plumbing offers plumbing and HVAC services. So those are kind of the two core offerings, and those are going to be translate to a campaign in the Google Ads hierarchy. Now, under that, we're going to have the specific service. So under plumbing, for example, we have sink repair, toilet repair, water heater repair. And then under that, finally, keywords. So keywords under sink repair. This allows you to group everything into common themes and gives you a few different advantages. So the first is going to be a better quality score. So when you can group everything together into a common theme, you can match everything across the board, so to speak. So your ad copy, your landing page, all of that can be very relevant to what the user is searching or whatever the theme in that ad group is. If you're not familiar with the quality score, it's essentially a rating Google gives your Google Ads campaigns, or it's at the keyword level, but assigns to Google Ads that really, I guess, dictates how quality or how relevant it is. As a general rule of thumb, the higher the quality score, the lower the cost per click. So you do have an interest in getting quality score as high as you can. The second item is going to be analysis. So if you can break your services or products into common themes, each one of those will have a different cost per lead associated with it. They'll have, varying metrics and, different performance. So you will want to look at each of those individually and then make adjustments accordingly. If you bunch them all into one campaign, it's tough to tell what's working and what's not. When you separate them into individual themes, you kind of put it in the spotlight and isolate it so you can analyze, exactly how it's doing. And it's not surprising to find a enormous difference in cost per lead between those groups. The last is settings. Basically, just grouping everything into themes or separating it out really gives you more control of the settings. I mean, for example, you may have a campaign that's in a different time zone and you need to adjust the ad schedule. If you haven't broken those into separate campaigns, you won't have the capability to do that. So really just gives you more control over the appropriate settings for that campaign. Speaking of settings, that kind of rolls into point number 2, analyze your settings. So this kind of touches on what I mentioned earlier about Google being, kind of appearing simple or some of the features being hidden. These are just really quick, easy changes. You may know some of these, but these are really quick and easy changes that can make a big difference. The three I'd like to focus on today are location, ad schedule, and network. So with location, when you go into the location targeting section, you can target by zip code, state, country, really whatever you want to do. But there is this location options drop down. Now, if you don't drop this down, you don't see any of these targeting options. So it's kind of one of those situations where you kind of have to know where to look. But you want to drop this down because this presence or interest is the default setting. If you don't drop this down and change it, it'll default to that. And presence, just means a physical presence in that location. Interest is a little more vague. Essentially, if I'm targeting Nashville, for example, and someone in New York includes Nashville in the search query, or somehow shows interest in the area, my ad is eligible to show to them in New York, although I only selected Nashville as my location. So if you don't want that to be the case, you need to change this to presence, which means it only shows to users in the locations you chose. That'll vary by campaign. What's appropriate will differ, but it's good to know this is there. The second item is the ad schedule. So pretty self-explanatory, really. This is just the schedule and times your ads will show. I wanted to bring this up because this is a good maintenance item to do, and just kind of a good thing to familiarize yourself with. You can segment this, and obviously this is just done by the day, but you can do it by hour in the day. Really, however you can divide time, you can do it here. And look at the cost per conversion from each. This is a little small text. I apologize for that, but if you can see it, this is way higher cost per conversion on Thursday. So you may want to look at that data and see if conversion rates or costs and things like that differ based on the day of the week or time of the day. The last item is going to be the networks. You can see this just kind of in the home screen or the campaign screen. If you segment by network, you'll see different performance for each. So in a nutshell, there's the Google Search Network. There's the Google Search Partners, which is exactly what it sounds like, just AOL, other websites that are partners with Google, and your Google search ads will also show on those websites. And the third is the display network. Those are the image ads that show up on websites just at the top or on the side. So all three of these are a little bit different, and you want to segment and look at the performance of each, because it is not uncommon for these to have vastly different performance metrics. For example, you may on the Google Search Network, you may have a $5 cost per lead and then a $12 cost per lead on the Google Search Partners Network. So, for example, you might want to exclude Google Search Partners in the future. The third tip is utilizing different keyword match types. So this is a big one, and kind of gets into a little more elaborate subject, but it's very important to go over. So match types are rules that dictate when your ads can show, and you apply these rules to keywords by adding symbols. In general, there are three main match types. There's a fourth, negative match, but it works a little different, so we'll get to that a little later. But for now, I wanted to focus on these three. Exact match, you create an exact match keyword by adding brackets around it, and the query must match your keyword exactly or a very close variant. Phrase match is kind of the middle ground. This one's actually, I guess, up in the air to an extent. Google just merged phrase match and broad match modifier, so exactly what is and isn't allowed kind of remains to be seen. But as a general rule of thumb, it's in the middle, and there's a little more leeway as far as synonyms or the order of the words and stuff like that. So phrase match is really focused around intent and kind of just I guess in layman's terms, like if they feel like they know what you meant, that can trigger your ad. So Broad is the last one I wanted to go over. There's no symbols around it, and that's gets back to my original point about Google appearing simple. Again, if you don't know that match types exist, you'll never apply any kind of symbols around words. Most people just go in and just type in the keyword. If you do that, it's going to default to broad. And broad, as you may guess, is the most broad of all the keywords. And that gives Google a very long leash to decide, what is a close match to your keywords, and at times can be really irrelevant. So it's good to kind of keep an eye on those. This will just kind of give you an example of how that works. And this is something you can look at later. It's good to familiarize yourself with these. Let's say you have exact match, for example. I've created an exact match by putting the brackets around it, Nashville plumber. Nashville plumber, obviously will trigger your ad. If it's plural or, a really close variation, it'll do it as well. Nashville plumbers, for example, will still trigger it. Nashville water heater repair will not trigger your ad if you're using an exact match type. Although, this person is looking for a plumber, it doesn't match exactly, so, it won't trigger your ad. Phrase match, basically somewhere in the middle. Nashville plumber, plumbers in Nashville, semantically different, but they know what you were getting at, so that will trigger your ad. Atlanta plumber, obviously the location's different, so that will not trigger your ad. Broad, this is where it gets a little dangerous, not knowing about match types. Broad certainly has its place, but it's just you need to use it the right way, basically. So let's just say you don't put any symbols in, you just type in Nashville plumber. Something that might trigger your ad is plumbing jobs Nashville. Now, this is clearly not something you were going after. Won't show your ad. You can put anything you want in there, restaurants near me, so that won't trigger the ad. But this, getting back to this, plumbing jobs Nashville, if you don't monitor your terms and you just use broad, this is probably going to be the majority of what you're spending your money on. So that fourth match type that I mentioned earlier, negative match, that is, if you enter a negative match term, then that means if the search includes that word anywhere in the search, it won't trigger your ad. So for example, in this, I would add jobs as a negative keyword. That would prevent me from showing for this in the future. And that really rolls into the fourth tip, which is monitor search terms. And this tip can save, we've saved people hundreds of thousands of dollars with this tip. It's, if you don't regularly check it, it's highly likely that you'll, go in and it'll save you quite a bit of money as well. So the search terms are different than keywords. Search terms are what users actually typed in to trigger your ad. And it can be surprising what does trigger your ad and what Google considers relevant. For example, this is an attorney in Boston. Most of these terms, are relevant. But for example, layers about the earth, so layers and lawyers are, I don't really know where Google got that those are similar, but it does that. It's a little wacky sometimes. So, for example, go in, add layers as a negative keyword. Again, it's not uncommon for, half or more than half, of your money to be spent on things that just have zero chance of converting, just, completely irrelevant stuff. So, this is something you definitely want to check on a regular basis. And, in addition, it's a really good thing to familiarize yourself with, a really good section to visit on a regular basis, because it really does a good job of giving you insight into how Google Ads works and, how they match keywords to queries and things like that. So it's just a really good section to visit, just as maintenance. So that's it. I hope you guys found this helpful. Again, there's some pretty simple tips, but, there was a time when I didn't know any of these things. So, I hope you guys can implement some of this and save money because, I definitely hate waste. So if you have any additional questions, as you see, you can reach me at 949-701-4714 or by visiting webconsuls.com. Thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a good day.